When you'll remember back in March of 2019, an aircraft with 157 people on board crashed minutes after takeoff from the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. Now, the aircraft was a brand new Boeing 737 MAX, and it had been equipped with software that was fatally flawed. Now, the manufacturer, Boeing, has since admitted responsibility, but under a controversial $2.5 billion deal with the US government, it avoided prosecution. Well, today, after years of delays, an inquest has opened here in Britain into the deaths of 3 British citizens who were aboard that plane. For their relatives, it is, of course, a landmark moment, as Theo Leggett now reports.
That was the day he came to see you when you were born. Do you remember bringing him?
Yeah.
That was special, wasn't it? He was so chuffed that he had a little brother.
Old memories are bittersweet for the Pegram family. 4 years ago, Mark and Deborah lost their son Sam, and their grief is still intense.
He used to talk to you and tell you stories. He was just a joy to have in your life, and he just made our lives better, really, and he's left a really big hole.
This is where Sam died. The 25-year-old humanitarian worker was aboard a Boeing 737 MAX that crashed shortly after takeoff from the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa, killing everyone on board. Today's inquest focuses on 3 British passengers: Sam Pegram, sustainability campaigner Joanna Toole, and UN worker Oliver Vick. The plane, like these seen here, was the second 737 MAX to crash in the space of just a few months. The first, run by Lion Air, had crashed into the sea off Indonesia in 2018, killing 189 people. The aircraft, a new design, had a fatal flaw, but after the first accident, it was allowed to keep flying. That fact makes Sam's brother Tom furious.
It's corporate greed that has got us to this point, and there's, it's killed so many people. It's hard to even wrap my head around the fact that even initially when it did happen, that people weren't up in arms.
Boeing has admitted responsibility for the crash and paid fines and compensation worth $2.5 billion. But under a deal with the US government, it's immune from further prosecution. That, says the family, is why the inquest matters.
It's a chance to be heard, to tell, let people know who Sam was, what he stood for. And also to, publicly in a court hear the wrongdoing that Boeing are guilty of.
I recently spoke to one of Boeing's top executives, and I asked him if he had a message for the bereaved families.
We have such deep sympathy and condolence for the 346 families that suffered loss, both in the Lion Air and the Ethiopian flights. For us as a company, the commitment is, how do we ensure that this terrible loss results in greater still improvements to aviation safety?
And that little speech, it's just words.
Empty words.
Empty words. He doesn't know what it's like. He can stand there and talk about life-changing. He doesn't know the meaning of the words.
For the Pegrams, grief and anger are still clearly very raw. They're hoping the long-delayed inquest will put the focus back on those like Sam whose lives were taken away, perhaps answer some remaining questions, and even give them a little bit of closure. Theo Leggett, BBC News.